Hi, welcome to the product ownership session of the Software Development, Procurement, and Management Fundamentals program. This is being presented by 18F for the Office of Child Care at HHS. My name is Sheil Shah. I'm a product manager here at 18F. Just to recap what this sort of series is planning to cover. So there's a session on Agile leadership and management. I'm going to be covering product ownership, and then there are 3 follow-on sessions to this: user-centered design, software development practices, and Agile contracting. I highly recommend that you view these in order as they all build upon each other. I'll be referencing elements of the Agile management and leadership session as part of my session. Before I jump into the content, let me give you a little bit of background about 18F. So 18F is a technology and design consultancy for the US government inside the government. So we're federal employees. What we mean by consultancy is that we'll work with other agencies within federal government, state government, and local government to help them build, buy, design software products and help think through their processes and operations. We're federal employees, we're public servants, so we share the same motivations as you. We really care about delivering great service to the public. So I'm going to talk about product ownership, particularly in the public sector. Before I jump to that, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. Like I said, I'm Sheil Shah. I'm a product manager here at 18F. I've worked in product for about 15 years now. I've kind of done the gamut of all the things. So I've worked in really old school products, so building software that we put on a CD and ship out to our users. I did that at Microsoft. I built products for governments and NGOs, mainly outside of the US. So I've done some national scale projects with the Ministries of Health of Haiti and India. And then I've also worked at a startup here. So, I've done product development at a really fast-paced startup where we were trying to stand up a health insurance company from scratch, which is a highly regulated industry that you need to move that we were trying to move fast in. So an interesting experience there. So to jump into kind of what I'm hoping to cover, so I'm just going to kind of help lay the foundation of why product ownership is necessary, what exactly product ownership is and kind of why it's valuable, and then how you can kind of think about product when you're working on an existing project or vendor. A lot of these techniques are, ideal when you're starting up on a new project or a new contract, but there are ways you can think about how to incorporate this into your existing work. One thing that I'm just not gonna probably jump into is just like the nitty-gritty details of how you actually do this, or like how you build roadmaps, how you do user stories, how you prioritize. That is a pretty involved topic, and so that's something that we might be able to cover in future Q&As, but I'm not going to touch on that in this fundamental session. Before I jump into why product ownership is important, I wanted to recap the Agile process of Agile development. So we have a session on Agile leadership that I highly recommend you watch before this, but just to kind of give you a brief recap. So when we think about Agile, what we're trying to do is design, build, and test things in very small pieces, get them out the door in kind of a production ready state, test them with real users, real people who'll be using it, learn from that experience, and then do it again, and just keep repeating. This is in contrast to traditional managed software product development, which you may have heard is called waterfall. So that's where you do a bunch of planning up front, you build something for many, many years, and then you release it after that. That has been shown to have a lot of failures and not lead to very successful projects. I did that style of development in my first product management job. So when I was working at Microsoft, we were building this software product for desktop computers. And, we had a plan to do this over 3 to 4 years. By about the third year, most people were moving a lot of their software off of desktops onto the web. And so by the time we actually built and released the thing that we had planned to in 4 years, everyone had moved off of desktop software and was using the web. And so what we built really wasn't applicable anymore. And that's a very common thing that you'll see with waterfall development. And just to sort of state it again, like Agile is really, really, really focused on iterative development. So you take a big problem, you break it into small pieces that are kind of independently valuable, and then you just like deliver something complete very frequently. And that really just helps you learn fast because you'll be able to put something in front of your users, get their feedback, and then learn from that feedback to kind of update your process, your idea, the thing that you want to build. And so when you're doing Agile, and I'm sure you've seen this, like what you're trying to do is deliver something complete in each cycle. So, in a traditional, let's take a, very hypothetical problem. Like I'm trying to get my groceries from the grocery store. In traditional waterfall development, you might say, okay, the best way to do that is for us to build a car so someone can go get their groceries faster and bring them home. And so what you might do is say, okay, we're going to build some wheels. We got to then combine those wheels into a chassis. And then we got to, put it all together in a car and then give that to someone. And then they'll be able to get their groceries faster, which might work. Tackling that same problem from an Agile perspective, what you'd think about is, okay, what's the smallest thing I can do to get someone their groceries faster? So you might say, okay, you know what? Instead of walking, we'll give them a skateboard. And then we'll have them use the skateboard, learn from that, and then we'll build them a bicycle, and then we'll build them a scooter, and then eventually we'll build them a car. Kind of ended up in a very, very similar state to before, but we've learned along the way. And the whole time that we were doing this project, we were delivering value to people. Like they had something that was making it faster each time. And so that's, like a very classic example of Agile versus waterfall. I think the interesting thing about Agile, though, is when you might learn something new along the way that changes your plan, right? So, and this is pretty common, like you might have taken that same example, trying to get my groceries from the store. You may have built your skateboard, built your bicycle. And then at that point, what you realize is getting to the grocery store faster via vehicle is not the best way to get somebody their groceries faster. Like maybe what we need to look at is improving roads and mapping and how to get there. Maybe we need to make it faster to check out at the grocery store so that they can get home with their groceries faster. Maybe we just need to help them plan to go to the grocery store. And that's the most valuable thing we can do. And so that's kind of the thing you see when you're doing Agile development is you've solved the problem. You might stop because you think there's other opportunities to make things better. And this might all seem hypothetical, but this is kind of how I've operated in a product role. So in one of my previous roles, I was working on a product to help patients stay adherent to their medications. So they're on diabetes medications or statins medications, and we just want to have them stay on those meds because they're chronic illnesses. We initially decided to start with, hey, let's just send them an automated SMS when they're due to take their med, and hopefully that will keep them taking their med. We tried it out. It actually didn't work. We found that people who received this SMS message versus people who didn't receive the SMS had the message had the same kind of uptake in their medication adherence. And we did this in a really, really light way. Like one of our engineers just built a list every morning and sent some messages out. If we'd done kind of a waterfall development here, we might have built a whole system to automate these SMS messages and then realize that they don't work. And so instead of kind of going down that path of SMS messages, what we were able to quickly learn and do is say, okay, maybe there are other ways to get people to stay adherent to their meds that we can explore instead. Like instead of an automated message, maybe we can set up an SMS conversation with a clinician, two-way, like a two-way SMS conversation, and that might help people stay adherent. We might be able to just change the language of the SMS message. We might actually say, you know what, the most valuable thing we can do is actually directly call patients or call their doctor to help them get their prescriptions. And so that's the path we went on, and we were able to do that because we kind of thought about things in a very agile fashion. to do all of the things I talked about. So like to go through this process and iterate and learn along the way, what you need is kind of a vision and a goal, the thing you're trying to achieve. And you need to make a bunch of day-to-day decisions because you're learning something almost every day, every week that you then need to incorporate in your plans and update your plans. And that, like, there's a lot of different decisions you make. You're like, you might be saying, what's your vision? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Is the thing that we just built and tested good enough in solving the problem we care about? What are we legally allowed to do? And all of those decisions kind of sit at the middle of a bunch of different dimensions, right? Like you might have user needs, stakeholder needs, tech needs, business needs. There's a bunch of different kind of needs that you need to evaluate to help you make those decisions. So, I'll just go through a very contrived example. So let's say you're trying to make something to book campsites. There's a bunch of different things that you need to consider as you make decisions about that product you're building, right? Like what just from like a user perspective, like do users actually want to go to a website to book campsites, or do they prefer to call a call center, or do they prefer to go to the campsite itself to book that reservation? From like a business perspective, like do we really care about getting all of our campsites booked ahead of time, or do we want to reserve a set of campsites so that people can show up to the campground and get an available campsite without having to book ahead of time? Technically, what's possible? Like, can we have an online system to book campsites that can also be used through a call center and then can also be updated in real time as people reserve campsites by arriving at the campground, right? So there's a bunch of different different decisions you need to make across all these dimensions. And that's kind of where product owners sit. So they're like very much business and domain experts who help teams kind of make decisions across these dimensions. So across design, user research, business policy, legal, and they kind of help bridge a good decision across all those dimensions and across all those groups. So that's why product owners are kind of essential in an agile world. You need someone who can bridge across these different dimensions that you're making decisions around. Lindsay covered this in the Agile leadership session, but like kind of like an interdisciplinary Agile team includes like user researchers, engineers, product designers. It could include other things depending on the project. So you might have a data analyst, a content designer, operations staff, legal staff. And the product owner is kind of the person who helps guide that team and kind of bring their viewpoints together to kind of to solve the problem that you're going after. I'm going to get into a bit of semantics about just like what is product, because it might be funny to talk about product when we're thinking about work at government agencies, because you might be thinking about like we're doing projects and services. So kind of the standard definition of a product is really anything that can be offered to a market that might satisfy a want or a need. So the analog in the government world would be something that helps people sign up for childcare subsidies, or to sign up for Medicaid, or figure out which small business programs are available in their state. And then a product owner is someone who helps guide a set of subject matter experts, so that interdisciplinary team that I talked about before, to actually envision and deliver products. And so the key thing here is that they're delivering products, not tasks or features or functionality. And so a product owner is like very, very focused on making sure that what the team does is delivering and satisfying on some need that your end users have. It's not just kind of doing what a stakeholder might demand, or following a plan, even though as you're going through that plan, you realize it's not helping solve your need. And just to recap, like to do this well, you need to kind of have someone who can sit at the middle of all these kind of legal, policy, design, technical dimensions. So how does product kind of do what they do? So product kind of thinks about, okay, like the first thing that a product person would do is first figure out, okay, like what's the vision? What's the what's the problem we're solving? Why are we solving that problem? This is not like a feature. You're not going to say your vision might not be a website to help people find information about childcare subsidies. Your vision would be to say, we want to make it easier for people to afford childcare or to be able to access recreation opportunities at national parks. And then the other piece that product kind of helps with is the execution. So how do you take that vision and translate it into a set of concrete things that you're going to do to achieve that vision? And vision and execution isn't, again, a list of features. It might be a set of tests. It might be user research. It might be a pilot. It might be some process changes to help achieve that vision that you have. And the way that I think about this, or product folks generally think about this, is there's kind of 4 questions that you're kind of working through. So what's the problem we're solving and why? So just what's that vision? Why does it matter? Is this the right problem that we're solving? And, like, this requires a lot of user research and thinking to really understand the problem. Like, you might say, okay, and I'm guilty of this too. You might say, okay, like, I've been working in a given space for a long time. I know my users. I might know their problems. But there's things you find out as you're doing research that actually helps you understand the problem better. So to take that contrived example of booking a campsite, that contrived example of booking a campsite, you might say, okay, the thing that we need to do is to make it easy for someone to pick a set of dates, pick a campsite, and then book the thing they want. When doing user research, you might realize that people actually don't know which campsite they want to book at. They might just say, these are some dates that I'm free and I want to go camping in a given area. And so that's the kind of target thing that you build around instead of saying pick a campsite. And that's what kind of user research and understanding the problem really gets you at. And then the second question is just, what will our impact be? Like, how do we know and measure that we're solving the problem we care about? And impact is a really hard thing to measure. What you really kind of get at is just like metrics that are proxies for what you think about. So if you're thinking about Medicare, like, let's say the impact you care about is making sure that people can afford their healthcare. Well, your proxy metric might be people in each state signing up for Medicare. And that misses some things, but it might be a good way to start measuring what you are trying to solve. And then how we're doing it. So that's the execution piece that I talked about before. And then, is our solution good? So when you execute and do something, going back to your impact and your metrics that you find, and measuring whether the thing that you've done is helping improve those metrics and getting the impact that you want. And there's a bunch of different ways you can test your solution, whether it's user testing, data, measurement. There's a bunch of different ways you can do that. And product teams generally have to be able to provide good answers to all these questions, or have a plan to get there if they don't know. One of the things that comes up a lot is like, what is a product owner versus a project manager? Because you might be thinking a lot of what I'm talking about is something a project manager would do. The truth is really somewhere in between, but this is a rough way that I've broken it out. So a project manager is really focused on like the tasks, the work that needs to be done, and making sure that project is on track. So that's the way they measure the output of their work. Whereas a product owner goes back to that impact and value. So like, is the thing we're doing valuable for end users? The tools they use. So a project manager might have, a project plan, a list of tasks that are being done, a Gantt chart. A product owner thinks about things in a little bit more agile ways. They may have a big picture roadmap. They may have a sprint board to manage their agile iterations and the specific tasks that are being done there. And then, a project manager really focuses on the start and end of a project, where a product owner really is thinking about, are we solving the problem that we want to solve? And we're done when the problem we think is solved in a good enough way. So, you might think product owners are a bunch, product owners are not a bunch of other things. So they're not project managers, they're not scrum masters, they're not designers, they're not pro developers, they're not data scientists. They're someone who can help understand the perspective of all of these people and guide the team to do what they think is the right next step to solve their problem. Sometimes product owners do play these roles. So like at 18F, we have a differentiation between project managers and product owners. And so sometimes we do have product owners who jump in and play project management roles, but that's really on an as-need basis. It's not their core role. One of the kind of key attributes of a good product owner is how they think and how they solve problems. So I kind of wanted to give you kind of a rough picture of what that looks like. An umbrella term for this is like product thinking. So one thing that's really important is like product owners, and I keep saying this, are really focused on are we delivering the right solution to solve the problem on hand? And a big part of this is looking at potential options, potential solutions to solve a problem, evaluating them and figuring out, okay, what's the right one? What's the right trade-off between effort and return on investment? Like we might be able to do something easy that gives us a high return on our investment in terms of solving our problem. And so that's where the product owner kind of looks at that and says, okay, what's the right thing we should do next? A really big part of a product owner's role is to keep the project team focused on the task that needs to get done. And the way I think about this is they're kind of protecting the project team and making sure that they're able to really focus and not get affected by external factors. And that really involves saying no a lot. So product owners will get a lot of requests from leadership, from stakeholders, from users, and you really need to be able to suss out to say, okay, like which of these ideas helps move our team forward to solving the problem that we want to solve. And a lot of them don't. So you have to end up saying no. And that's an art and a skill. So like, you know, this in my time as a product owner, what's come up is, you know, someone in leadership or a stakeholder will have an idea for something, right? So, you know, recently 18F was on a project and they were brought in to build a chatbot. And so what I would do, you know, build a chatbot for people to interact with to get their questions answered. And in that world, what I do is I actually say, okay, that's an idea, but what's the problem that idea is trying to solve? And then are we already on track to solve that problem? Or are there different ways to solve that problem? Or is that problem worth solving? So in the chatbot example, like what the problem that was being articulated there is, you know, we want to make it easier for people to get their questions answered. And there are a bunch of different ways you could solve that. You could put better information up on your website. You could make it easier to call in and then empower the people at the call center to answer the questions faster. And so that's where like, you're not necessarily always saying no, but you're kind of figuring out, okay, what's the right problem to solve? And do I say no to this specific feature? If you don't do that, then you get some monstrosities created. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with The Simpsons, but in one of the episodes, Homer finds out that his half-brother is an auto executive and he's empowered to build the car of his dreams. And so what he does is he puts in every feature, every idea that he has. And he thinks that this is going to be the best car ever, but what it does is it has a bunch of features and functionality. It's really expensive and it doesn't solve the problem that people care about, which is getting from point A to point B in a comfortable fashion. And in this episode, this car drove his half-brother into bankruptcy. So, you know, like product owners aren't always saying no, they're just making sure that what they say yes to is solving the problem that the team is trying to solve. A really important part of being a product owner is kind of staging and prioritizing your work. And one of the things I do is I really try to understand what are the risks our team is facing. Like, do we not know if users want to use the thing that we have an idea to build? Do we not know if the thing we want to do is technically possible? Do we know if something is legally allowed? And product owners try mitigate those risks as early as possible. So if there's a big unknown technical risk, we'll put that work up front so that we can either understand if that risk is manageable or not manageable and how it will affect the rest of our work. And then a really key thing is like product owners use the brain of the entire team. And Lindsay talks about this in her Agile leadership session as well, but they don't make decisions in a vacuum. They're not dictators. They get ideas and input and buy-in from everyone on the team and kind of make the team have help the team make a shared decision that kind of cuts across all these dimensions. So they're using the best brains of the team to solve, and ideas come from everywhere. It might be a technical, if you have a problem, there might be a technical solution, there might be a process change. And so the product owner shouldn't get wedded to their idea. They should hear the ideas from the rest of the team and figure out help the team decide what the best idea is. I've talked a lot about product ownership. More generally, I wanted to get a little bit more concrete about product ownership in government. So here's kind of how 18F thinks about, a product team. We think of, there's a vendor team that may have engineers, designers, user researchers, content experts, data scientists, etc., that's doing the execution work. But we think of two roles at the agency that are really important. One is the product owner role that I'll talk about why we think it is important, and then the tech lead role, which which we cover in the software development session and the Agile leadership session. But we think that role is also really important to either be an agency employee or a contractor who's on a different contract from a different organization than the vendor. And that tech lead is really just there to oversee the work of the vendor, to help make technical decisions, to make sure the quality of the work is correct, to help understand what's being built. And it's better if they're not part of that vendor team. The product owner, we think, is really important to be an agency employee because of two reasons. So it helps agencies actually own the business outcomes of what's being done. And so in the Agile model, we talk about like the team is very focused on solving a given problem, and helping guide that problem to be solved should be the agency, not the vendor. We don't want to kind of hand off a problem to a vendor and come back in 3 years to see if that problem's been solved. And so having the product owner be an agency employee really helps make sure the agency owns the value and owns the problem that's being solved. And it also just gives the agency knowledge to own the project irrespective of the vendor. You don't want to be in a relationship where you've gotten the vendor running the entire project for 4 years, and if you're not happy with that vendor's performance, you have no knowledge of the agency to actually be able to take over that project and hand it off to another vendor. This is a really hard ask, but what we've seen is that product ownership is a full-time job. Like, you're doing so many things every day. You're working with your team, you're doing user research, or attending usability sessions, you're helping plan your roadmap, you're building out your backlog, you're understanding a given risk and following up with a bunch of different people to clear blockers. And that just requires time. And so in our experience, like, having product owners be something that's attached to another duty isn't setting up the product owner, or really the effort or project up for success. Like, they really need their full brain, their full time to focus on helping their team execute. And I know this is a hard ask, and hiring is really hard. There are times where you might be able to do it as a hybrid role, but we find that that doesn't lead to the most success for the project. And then just touching on a little bit of what makes a good product owner. So having agency and user context is really important, because you're able to then understand the problem space and help figure out like what are the different levers and ways we have to add value and solve the problem. The other thing that a good product owner should have is, again, I mentioned this earlier, but they're not making decisions in a vacuum. They're not a dictator. And so they need the ability to hear different perspectives from an interdisciplinary team and help that team make a shared decision. Being extremely outcome oriented. So good product owners are not focused on delivering features or functionality. They're focused on, are we solving the problem with the features that we've done? And so you need to have a very outcome orientation to do that. And related to being outcome oriented, you need to be able to, be comfortable prioritizing and not doing certain things and saying no in focus of the outcome you're trying to achieve. And then just here's a rough list of the types of things that you might see a product owner create. I'm not going to get into the details of how you do this, but they should be able to help the team come up with a good vision statement. They should have metrics and performance indicators. They may have a list of features. They should have a backlog and a roadmap and a plan and a way to ensure that the product is of high quality, is being tested, and like there's a way to understand how to manage bugs. One thing that, this all sounds great in a brand new project. It's a little harder when you already have an existing vendor and project. Like it's really hard to kind of incorporate product thinking and to enable product ownership just because of the limits of that relationship and contract. There's a couple things that you can start to use. So one big thing is, if it's possible within your arrangement, to just start asking and looking at working software that you can use and that you can put in front of users, even if it's just to test with. That's going to get you really good input and feedback on whether what the vendor is doing is valuable in solving the problem that you care about solving. When you're given choices on a project, like, let's say there's a change request or something you can change, a big thing is saying, this is to focus on the outcome that you're trying to achieve, not the feature. So, if you want, what's a good example? If you want people to book campsites, for example, like focusing on not a feature to search for campsites, but enabling the outcome that you want to achieve. So allowing, 80% of users to be able to book a campsite when they first visit the website. And then the other thing is to focus on doing things in small pieces that independently add value. So if you have choices, or like you have the ability to influence the work that's being done, this is a big thing to focus on, which, is just like being very focused on outcomes. And another way to just do this is to think about outcome orientation and like trying to apply some of those product thinking principles to other non-software projects that you might be doing. So how do you break down a given project into smaller pieces? How do you do things early to reduce the risk of the project? How do you make sure the things that you're doing are delivering value and being tested in small pieces instead of at the end of the project? And you can do that even with process improvement and other types of non-software projects. So just to kind of recap and review. So kind of our main takeaways from this is, we really think in our experience at 18F that product owners should be agency employees, because they would then own the outcomes, the business outcomes that you're trying to drive, and have the knowledge to own that project and that work if the vendor ends up changing. They should be domain experts and kind of sit in the middle of technology, business, users, policy, and process. They don't have to be experts in any of these fields, but they should have the ability to work with people in all those different realms to help the team make decisions, because they're guiding an interdisciplinary team. And then product owners should make sure that the team is really, really focused on delivering value and solving problems, instead of delivering features and functionality. That's this session. We'll have a Q&A session scheduled in September. So if you have any questions about this or any other topics that we covered, please bring them to that Q&A session. Thanks so much.